Welcome to this journey where we dialogue with thought and heart leaders to share their reflections on human condition and how to improve them.
Anirban, I think first of all I'd like to thank you for providing us this time. It's 31st December, change of the year, change for a lot of people. It may be perception, it may be a social construction, but let's begin when the change for you started. In the sense, can you share with us some early childhood memories? What are some of the salient things in your early childhood memories?
Yeah. First of all, when I was a kid, I have a couple of memories. Like my mother told me that Vishnu Bhagavan is in the Tulsi. So in Bengali families, we used to have a Tulsi tree every house where mother used to worship. And she told me that this Tulsi tree contains Bhagwan Narayan, the God. And in very late night, I silently came out of the room. Then I was aged 4, and I went to the Tulsi tree and waited there whole night to see the God if he comes in the night, as my mother said, but it didn't happen. So I remember that event very well. And another event was I was standing in our garden, and then I saw a drone helicopter. Remember, this is 1978. I really saw a drone helicopter that was going, and it olive green color drone helicopter. And then who built it, how did they build it, and why it was going, and it was going just like the way now you see the drones. Since I saw it in 1978-79 when I was 3 or 4 years old, I cannot forget it. And third thing that I remember is that I developed this idea at the age of 7 or 8 that we all will be dying. So I was just thinking that why these people are laughing so much when they are going to die. It's just a matter of years. These people would die. So I got very upset, and I used to go to the forest every afternoon when kids used to play. And I used to go to the forest, cry a lot, flush out all my tension and all other things, and I used to return. So these are the 3 events that I remember, which I liked. There are other memories like walking in the mango garden, miles after miles, and then sitting in front of the river and watching the duck and then others. But as far as I remember, as a child, I loved observing things that are happening around me, and I loved painting. So first time in class 3, and then I was 7 or 8 years of age, and then our teacher asked us to draw a pineapple. She kept a pineapple on the table, and then I drew it. All the kids were shocked. Even I was shocked looking at the pineapple, because pineapple looked exact replica by color and drawing, exact replica of the pineapple that was kept over there. So I was shocked that how did it happen, but I didn't know what happened to me. I was to get lost totally into that. So that happened many times afterwards in my life. Whenever I used to get into painting, many times I started painting at 4:30 in the afternoon, and then next morning I used to think that what happened? Time has not changed, but the whole night has passed. I didn't sleep, I didn't move. Even my mother didn't came to disturb me while painting. She didn't ask me for eating or doing anything. And I finished the whole painting next morning, 6:30 or 7:30. and I saw that my food is kept on the table. My mother didn't disturb me. I was totally lost. So, so painting was something I used to get lost. So these are the kind of thing. We had a musical family, so every day there was my father had a music school. So a lot of great artists used to come home and.
Interesting. And how did these fascinating experiences of the Tulsi tree, the drone, the painting, the death, the experience and the understanding of death, at least at that age, how do you think they could be linked to your fascination for getting into science? And do you think there's a direct correlation between this and your curiosity?
Yeah. So basically, when I was class 7 or 8, I wanted to be a police inspector or a detective because they get some clue and then they find out the whole event behind it. Or I wanted to be a scientist because they get some clue and they wanted to find the whole story behind it. So, so inquisitive mind I realized it because if in our locality some problem used to happen, often people used to call me and then I was to solve that because I always had a unique idea to solve unique problems. But at the age of 12, my father gave me a book, The LearningBrain. It was compilation of 30 years of research on the human brain in Soviet Union. And it was Mir Public Publishers. So Bengal had a communist environment and Russia was also communist. They used to sell lots of very good books, almost no price. So they were cheaper than our textbook, this advanced scientific books, and we used to get a lot. And that LearningBrain actually changed. And then it was 1988. So already MarvinMinsky's artificial intelligence, people are going to make artificial brain. They will put chip so in the brain. All these things came, and I was my father was a vivid reader, and then we had nearly several hundreds, if not thousands of books in the house. And then I used to have very late night discussion with father about many interesting things. So I was exposed to the to very advanced level of science by the age of 10 and 11.
Interesting. A lot of, I would not say a lot, but quite a few people on the planet do have these rare, combination of curiosity and then the environment that helps you cultivate something further. But very few are able to develop critical thinking skills and debiasing themselves. In your own field, I mean, you're overturning lots of well-accepted theories and well-accepted, thousands of people working in those fields. You're turning them over the head. How did you think you developed your own critical thinking and debiasing skills?
Yeah, basically, I never wanted to destroy other thoughts and create a new one. I never. Even now, I never have any wish to do that. But I love doing what I do, and I have the courage to say, if something happens, say it the way it happens. So I was a clean speaker from my childhood. I used to say what is right, and that all happened. So basically, my challenge to the neuroscientists, that you are saying neuron skin is doing everything, but you are ignoring what is happening inside, or their assemblies and their assemblies and their assemblies. So all these things, it didn't happen because I wanted to challenge what is 100-year-old established philosophies or others. Because when I was looking at the experimental data, or I look at the results, I put it in my mind, and over the years I start thinking how it could happen naturally. I never try to take any established theory or established concept and then explain my result.
Mhm.
I think whoever scientists try to do that, they are not trained properly to be a scientist. They are policy manager or market manager in the field of science,
Mhm.
uh, uh, polished as a professional businessman, but tagged as a doctor or a scientist. So basically, I never wanted to topple anything. But I look into things the way it want to be. I do not want to change it. The way natural things happen, I want to respect it, worship it, and learn it. I do not learn for anybody else. I am extremely selfish, wants to fill his heart with truth that is happening in the nature. And I
Yes.
would continue to do that. I have been doing that since my childhood. And so I never believed when I always used to be uh, with my mother when she used to do worship, and I could never ever be able to believe in God. I tried my best, but I couldn't. I used to think this is just a picture, this is just a doll.
Yeah.
So I was always trying to find out what's behind it,
Interesting.
why this is happening, why is it happening, why is it happening, and then study more and more and more. So I used to study history a lot. I was to study geography, I was to study everything. My mother used to say that uh, we had a cow in our house, and we had two cows, one white named Dhavali and one black, Kaalu. So my mother used to say, look at the cows. One cow, it takes the food, whatever is given to it. So my mother used to say, there is an old Indian proverb that those cows which eat everything, doesn't select this one or that one. That cow gives very good milk and very high quantity milk. That's from a very good family and very good gene. But those other cow, the Kaalu, you have to give hot water in the in the winter season. You have to give the straws, you have to cut and in a proper shape, and all the foods have to be given shoved properly, and then all these things you have to do, otherwise she will not eat. And my mother said that she would never produce good good milk. So I learned it to my heart, and I was to eat everything. Every single concept I see, I eat. So I have no problem discussing with you in music. I have no problem discussing with you chemistry. I have no problem discussing with you hardcore mathematics or learning from you or anything. Give me anything, I'm going to eat and
Interesting.
enjoy with you the way you do it.
So I'm
So
speaking to Anirban Thavli in a
yeah, yeah, yeah.
way.
Yeah, absolutely. I relate myself with cows very well, because I had a cow, a little baby calf, and then uh, I was to my home, my room. I never used to stay with my parents. There was a home, a small room created by my father, little far from the room where my parents used to stay. And the calf used to come to my room and then uh, sit in the bed. So, and then when I was to come every day, um, I was to chat with that calf, and then I asked her, get down, please, and then used to go. And in the
Interesting.
morning, in the winter time, I was to study with a mat outside in the garden. I loved there to study over there, and then the calf used to come and sit beside me and look at what is I am doing or something. Never used to disturb me in study. But
Interesting.
he died with a one day he died with a terrible disease. Whole day I was running after doctor after doctors. Nobody was interested, and everybody was telling me uh, uh, that. why are you doing all this for a calf? Um, so I did it for, I think that every single life form is important. That actually constructed the fundamental of my brain research, where I proposed that every single component in the brain is important. You cannot just take neuron skin. Of course, skin is doing everything. If I argue with you adamantly, blindly, I can say that your skin that does everything. Your skin speaks. Your skin does everything that you do. That is logically correct. But in other sense, it's absolute nonsense, ridiculous statement. So, so somehow living with life and feeling for the people, that helped me. Actually, I was very unsmart. So when people used to come in our house, my brother used to get all the attention because he was extremely smart, very intelligent, and my sister also. And I was very shy. I used to hide myself, and always it happened. It happened until my masters, and then so I had grown a love for those who were not privileged. I felt that they are all important because I felt myself that I am important. Though nobody used to give much importance to me in the house, because and in the family get-togethers also, they used to say that I'm a stupid, I study a lot. I used to study because I wanted to learn, not to become first, second in the class, because I loved it. So I didn't have that much honor or respect, to be precise. And then I was kind of ignored always. Maybe that is fundamentally the reason behind the kind of research I did in the brain, because I wanted to learn everybody whom we ignore might have something important, might have been doing something important.
Interesting, interesting. So Anirban, this actually is an interesting segue to the next question, which is, as you began your academic journey, can you take us through few salient features of your academic journey, in the sense till the time that you passed out your first few degrees and your doctorate?
Yeah. So basically, what happened is that as I passed out of schools, and then I tried to do many things, failed in everything. I was not getting good scores. I was even in graduation, in masters. I never had good scores. But one thing I knew about myself, that I love learning. So I was below average student, and so never nothing significant happened to me. Apart from that, everybody loved me for my painting, never for for other things. So in that sense, I would say that there is nothing significant to be said about my academic career, because I was a below average student. But in my masters, in my graduation, in my masters, I really loved physics, and then I felt that the concepts are very clear to me than others, but I had nothing I could prove. But somehow I got NET exam. I cleared the NET exam, but nobody could in our batch. Everybody is set for the exam, even the toppers and all these great students. And but when I joined in my PhD, I told my father, all this life you have seen, I remember that day. I told my father, I'm going to change everything. Now you will see how I change everything. I will not be that failed guy you know all these days.
Interesting.
Because when I entered into research, I understood that this is for which I was born.
Interesting. Interesting.
Because I'm not smart. I take a lot of time to make a decision, to reach conclusion, to understand something. So if you check my IQ, I did check my IQ test. It's not very good. It's 150. So, but given sufficient time, I can dig deeper and deeper and deeper into a thing, and then link many different things that are happening in a particular subject. So my journey to become a doctorate is kind of it's a very silent and a shy journey of a person who loved his subject very much, but the system never had any love for me.
Is it? I have a curiosity here, Anirbanji. Like there is this concept of convergent thinking and divergent thinking, and for example, 2 plus 2. I mean, in some, if we agree to the mathematical construct, then we would say it has an answer which is a single answer. But suppose if I say this is a pen, and let's discuss 50 different uses of the pen, that's divergent. We can use it for many ways. Is it the case that because you took so much interest in so many areas, the way you used to process anything was looking at it from a systemic thinking, design thinking, or different angles and different disciplines you would try and assess things, and hence that would consume some time? Could that be a support to your?
No, I think I am very unsmart and very slow in the thought process. The reason behind is that I respect a system. I try to assimilate the system or the event that are happening around me naturally in its own way by learning more and more about it before coming to any judgment.
Interesting.
That's why I think my respect and love for every single system is what delays me, not diversification or diversified thoughts. That I want to learn this. No. If I want to learn about you, I talk to you more, I get information more and more, find out the beauty and the interesting thing that you have. Never the negative things, never. Because there are some people who says that the universe is made of positive and negative things. I think that's a total nonsense things. That's why I am totally against the Turing philosophy and then all this later in the computing. So my understanding of the universe, my love for the universe has played a fundamental role, because the whole Abrahamic science that exists in the world today, or you can say that is Christian science, or Abrahamic science means Christian, Islamic, or whatever the science is. The foundation of this science is that there is a positive force, there is a negative force, and they fight together. That is going on in the universe always. And then somebody wins. So dark force, dark energy, dark things. This, I think this whole way of understanding the universe or nature or the events happening around us is very, very, very wrong. And the reason for all the pain that we have in the human civilization is the thought that there is a good and a bad, and fight between good and bad is eternal, and it would continue forever. I don't think so.
Yeah, we'll come back to this construction, the social justice, the social construction of the society later in the interview, and I want to pick up more insights.
I am not talking about social justice or social something. I'm talking about how a nature paper which discusses proteins, they say protein A fights with protein B, and then protein A wins, and then the thing happens in biology. And then you say origin of the universe. There were many universes at the beginning, and then they fight together. The universe with right fundamental constants survived, others disappeared, like the Darwin's theorem of evolutionary theory. I don't believe in it. I think that everything that is created in the universe, everything, they are connected together following a pattern, and everything has a fundamental role to play. in the construction of the universe. What that is not required is never born. That's kind of my complete moving out, complete way of moving out. I mean, and one much later I discovered that the foundation of Hindu religion, the Vedas, also talk just like that. That in the whole universe is a living life form. It's called Virata Purusha. And then there is a life inside a life inside a life inside a life inside a life. As small you go, you always find some kind of life form over there, some expressions, some interactions, some cycle of life, and then it's endless. So if I believe in it, I cannot believe in God. If I believe in it, I cannot have a heaven. So if you are your neuron cells, should they say that when they die and replaced by another neuron cells, or your cells are dying and replaced by another neuron cells, should they say that the cells have soul and then soul is going to heaven and hell? This is utter nonsense. Similarly, if we are part of a higher life form, and then that is a higher life form, no heaven, no hell. Everything is living a life for a reason, for a purpose, and the purpose is to find a better pattern, better match with the universe's universal form, or Brahman, to be said. So I think that this is a fundamental difference between Brahmic science that was created in India and the Abrahamic science that was created in the Sumer, and then Greek adopted it, and then Europe adopted it, and now it has completely taken over the scientific practices all over the world.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, please.
So Anirban, I think this is an interesting place to start the unfolding of your theory. So can you take us through few salient features or points in your journey that kept, if you can take us through a few chronological events that happened that led you to the formation of your current theory?
Yeah. So basically, 2005, when I got this job in Japan, I got the opportunity to explore. I was a PhD student, and then I got the opportunity to explore. So I had two choices. What should I do? For a scientist who get a job at a very young age, it was 28, and I was almost a faculty, and very few people all over the world actually get the opportunity to do his own research. Being a PhD student, you need to go through very, very strugglesome process. So at the age of 29, I got this opportunity, and then I had a funding and all these things. And I had a dream to build artificial brain. So initially, I had a lot of respect for all the scientific theories that were existing at that time. And I was a vivid reader from my PhD from 2001 itself. But when I started my research, different kind of experimental things I started doing, following the existing theories, and I found that nobody had any idea what is artificial brain, but multi-million-dollar investments were being made to build an artificial brain. And not just that, most of the theories, these are based on assumptions, and if our education system, science education system, is so bad that they teach you fact as a faith. We train our science students as a faith. This is truth. This is the truth. Scientists have found this is the truth, but actually scientists never have found any truth. I started realizing from 2005 to 2010, 2008, 9. By that time, I started finding that so many assumptions are there which you were not taught.
Can you take us through some of the most fundamental objections you had while going through these realms of researches and theories?
For an example, you assume that the origin of consciousness, or the reason for consciousness, is a kind of a computing. It's like a brain is like a computer, and this kind of faith we put, because all the efforts in the world to make an artificial brain is actually seeing brain as a computer, and then you try to do in a different ways. So
Mm-hmm.
they are very welcome hearted when you talk in this line.
So you're saying
There
that
is a,
so you're
yeah,
saying that substrate agnostic at some computing level one can attain any machine can attain consciousness is what you thought is debunked in your
uh,
in your work.
yes. So basically people were saying that brain is a neuron is a switch, and no further investigation is necessary over there. It's absolute truth.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a terrible situation at that point of time, because I found that whatever they are saying is an assumption. They are considering it as a truth, but no investigation was made to debunk that.
Mm-hmm.
So I entered inside neuron, took out the proteins from the brain. I was a physics student, trained in nanotechnology with experimental things. I had no idea what protein is. So I had to learn proteins and then how to handle proteins and take out the protein materials, measure it. And then I discovered that that neuron firing is not a chain-like events, that information is coming from all over your body through the sensors and then passing through a circuit, and then neuron is switching on and off, and some electronic components are over there, and then all the things are happening. This is how people were projecting. Even now, majority of the groups in the world, $1 billion artificial brain building projects is going on all over the world. And
Connectome.
by the way,
Yeah.
it is the most important thing in the history of mankind, because for the first time in the history of mankind, you are investing in science project much more than what you fund for a defense project. So to destroy some humans, you you spend less money than brain research. The first time it happened, because if you understand how the brain works, and you can build a conscious machine, you can rule the world, whoever would do it. And that's why most of the research on artificial brain building is done secretly. And all the developing world, all the developed countries, they are investing maximum amount of resource in this building, except India, of course.
Right.
You have to keep India apart.
Yeah. So coming back to the thing that you were mentioning, that there was some serious objections you had to the assumptions, the fundamental assumptions that were not even questioned while
Yeah.
constructing the theory of the brain, and you took objections to it and you started thinking differently. How did this switch happen inside of you? In the sense, what did you? So I can understand that you had this glaring case where people are saying take it as given and then work from there, but you're asking why should we take this as given?
Yeah.
How did you move from there?
Yeah, actually, two events happened in parallel from 2005 to 2010. The first thing that happened was I was trying to understand what is Turing philosophy,
Mm-hmm.
and I learned that the philosophy is very simple. Every single event that are happening in the universe,
Mm-hmm.
wherever it is, in the past, now, or in the future, all the event could be rewritten on a single tape with 0101, simple event. So that means a switching a event, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, and you can replicate any event that is happening in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
So this I learned, but I never believed. All the events that are happening in the universe are could be rewritten as sum of questions, sequence of questions, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. So I can ask frame questions. Did you go there? You say yes, and then simple questions, and I reconstruct every single event. So this is a Turing philosophy. So it's a tape, and in which you get it. But I found that in our life we never do it. Where did you go? I say, oh, I went to home. But going home, what did you do? I did this. So one event, inside an event there are many other events, and you take any of them and you find many other event and many other event, many other event. This is how our life goes. I mean, it's a simple observation of me through my life, and everybody observes it every moment.
Correct, correct.
If that is the reality, then it cannot be a Turing machine, because Turing machine is differentiation. You can do differentiation. One means you take a small element of it and you can make a small element of output. A small input is small output. It's one input, input, output, input, output, input, output. You can go, and there is a limit. Okay, so you find input and output a very good relation. And if you go inside an event and then find some more events, and you go inside and inside and inside, then you cannot write a statement. For an example, I'm asking, who are you? This simple question, if you answer that I am A, and then I say, please define A. I say, oh, this head, this hand, leg, all this. Which part of it? Well, no, I don't know. You can ask my leg, hand, and others. Maybe somewhere I exist. And then I go to your head and ask you, do you exist here? No, I have this component. And then I go to inside and inside and inside and inside. It's an endless chain of questions.
Yeah.
I felt that universe is constructed like this. So this was a philosophical journey, because people strongly believe even now that events could be rewritten on a single tape. And I strongly believe that you cannot. Events that happen in the universe is geometric, like a cube, and then you go inside a corner of it, and then you may find a pyramid, and then you find many corners, and then you go inside and inside and inside. It's a geometric arrangement within and above, not side by side. Mm-hmm. So this simple part is what is the fundamental of our journey in making artificial brain, and fundamental to the book that has been written.
I have one curiosity here, Anirban.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I love the example that you gave. You know, suppose somebody says, "Where do you go?" Then you can keep asking. I think you can keep asking n number of questions, and it can just keep building in terms of some kind of a tree, a mesh rather, not even a tree, a mesh, and then some question could have another question built in, then there could be another question built in. And
geometry.
Different geometry could be built. I don't think you're taking an objection to building those questions as one way of looking at things, because that's what we do every day. But what you're saying is, in order to make sense of explaining how even these things come about, you're saying there is a better way of doing this, which is by building a language of geometry, is what you're saying.
Yes. So basically I'm saying is that if you want to understand nature, you have to construct the event in the way nature has constructed it, or we construct it in our daily life or everywhere. You cannot assume, because if it is a tape, it's easy to build a machine. Mm-hmm. If it is a tape, you can rewrite every single event happening in the universe in the form of a tape. It's easy to build a machine. You can have a typewriter and you can type it, tack, 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 tack. Don't type 0101, and then you can do everything. But if the assembly is the assembly of events within and above, if it grows within and above, inside and inside and inside, then there is no end. Mm. You cannot construct a machine. At least there was no known way. So our book is first thesis that if there is an undefined world, imagine the impact that you will have a science where there will be no equations, no giant or big equations. Mm-hmm. Only geometric shapes changing into another geometric shape. So this was actually said by Feynman in 1962.
Okay.
So he said that one day the true physics will come, true science will come, where on a checkerboard patterns would change. And then that would explain the nature in the way it is. There will be no equations. He said it. And also GeometricDynamics, which was introduced inspired by Einstein's work on general theory of relativity in 1918 or 1919. In GeometricDynamics, they also said that geometric shapes change, and that actually construct everything in the universe. So ItFromBit is a very, very famous paper where where people argued that there are many people who believed that it means the physical significance, and bit is 0101. So from 0101, when you try to construct it, you actually destroy the way events happen in nature, and you rewrite it as a chain. And from that chain, using your imagination, you build the geometric shape of events. And then you try to fit the observation and change this geometric shape to nearest shape that might have existed in nature. Why not? You start with some geometric shapes, where in this book we have argued that there would be 15 geometric shapes, and we will try to understand the events with those geometric shapes.
So just for a layman like me, when I look at mathematics, the current mathematics or the current ways in how people define the operations in the world, they have a symbol system, and the symbol system has number theory and the different ways of counting and ordering the universe, so on and so forth. So you're saying your theory replaces the numbering system with the geometric shape. So the fundamental elements of your theory are these 15 geometric shapes.
Yes, but also there is a number system. I mean, we are not we are acquiring the pattern of primes also, because if you take 15 primes, you can multiply them and create 99.99% of all integers in the universe. So basically, if you look at geometric shape and look at its ratios in terms of prime numbers, so basically you can explain 99.99% of every single thing that are happening in the universe. So those prime numbers, you can put an arrangement, and then you can create a self-operating system, because how many, as I always ask people, how many integers are divided by 2? 50% of all integers, whether you know it or not, are divided by 2. Then how many of them are divided by 3? Then 33%. Actually, if you calculate it properly, it will be 16%, because some of the numbers are divided by 2 and 3. So if you go on adding the contribution of 2, contribution of 3, contribution of 5, contribution of 7, contribution of 11, contribution of 13, contribution of 17, contribution of 19, contribution of 23, contribution of 29, contribution of 31, contribution of 37, contribution of 41, contribution of 43, and contribution of 47. These only 15 primes, and then you will add up to 99.99999% of the universe. So you don't need to learn all these things. Just take these 15 primes, and then you reassemble your geometric shapes, and then allow it to grow in the way number system grows. The way primes multiply and create the numbers, same way geometric shapes would multiply and create the geometric shapes. So you can predict the future.
Okay, so how do we get from the primes to the geometric shape? Because that's something that I'm not able to.
Oh, suppose you have a triangle.
Okay.
So your triangle have a ratio of 4:6:7.
Okay.
And then you take 2 into 2, 4, 3 into 2, 6, and 7. So 2, 2, 3, and 7. So 2, 3, 7 you have. So you see how to divide it and then split the geometric shapes into another.
Okay.
So basically you
So
rewrite the geometric.
So that's the way of getting from primes to the geometrical shape. How do you explain the and in your theory, geometric shapes are evolving, they're not static, right? It's dynamic. How do you explain this? Like, why is it necessary for them to be dynamic?
Because suppose somebody gives you a geometric shape. Say it has suppose you are given 12 events, 12 discrete events. Ultimately what you have to do, you have to understand nature. And understanding nature means linking the events and build the possible future.
Correct.
So you want to build the future. So that is all science is all about. And we are trying to recreate it in a different way. Now what we do is 12 events, how many maximum ways you can arrange? You can take a piece of paper and you can calculate. You can take 6 events and 6 events, 2 into 6.
Correct.
You can take 2 events, 2 events, 2 events, 2 events, 2 events, 2 events.
Correct.
6 into 2.
Correct.
So 2 into 6, 6 into 2, 3 into 4, 4 into 3, 2 into 2 into 3, 2 into 3 into 2, 3 into 2 into 2. You count and you get 8. So if you put all of them together, you get a beautiful temple-like architecture.
Mm-hmm.
We call it phase prime metric, or the metric of primes, or a pattern of free will. So maximum number way, the way you can collect and arrange the random events happening around you, there is a scientific way of linking them together, and then that is just like a Hindu temple architecture that you'll see. And that architecture we built. So when you build that architecture, you will find the number of choices, they increase like this or decrease like this. So clockwise rotation, anti-clockwise rotation, and all the dynamic features that you can have in the universe, you can automatically see happening.
Mm-hmm.
So this temple-like architecture is actually the foundation of the universe, because this is a fundamental. It is not biased to anything. When I put 15 geometric shapes, how those geometric shapes would change, that is determined by this temple architecture. Because if we have triangle 2, 3, 5, we put it back in the temple architecture, and then we see how it will change, repeat this pattern many times, and how it will add with different geometric shapes and then change.
So in the way you're explaining, am I to then assume that, because I'm still trying to use the existing frame of science and existing frame of maths to even make sense of this, so pardon me for that, but they say that there is up and down the scale, there are different, you can go Planck quantum, you can go cosmic scale, and you have mesoscale. And up and down the scale, there are these different things that they allude to. There are subatomic particles, there are interactions, there are atoms, molecules. What you're saying is does your theory support the existence of these interactions, forces, elements, particles?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes. It's not about creating everything new. What we are saying is that what we know already, they are small part of it, tiny part of it, because you are looking at the observation, and then you have some measurement, and then you create a model from your imagination and try to build up that structure. Of course, you are near to something, but you can fine tune it. You can link all these scales, and link all these scales much more credibly and reliably. So always when you develop a scientific theory, you say that within this limit to this limit, my theory is valid. Beyond that, some other scientists build a theory, and that is available over there. And then if you change this condition, then that scientist build a theory, and you have to use that one. So that encyclopedia of theories to explain even a single event, that would go. Because what you do when you do geometrification or geometrodynamics of every single event, then morphogenesis, or change of geometric shapes in a particular way, is how a phenomenon is to be explained.
Yeah.
So yeah, please.
Yeah. So again, a more just trying to understand this better. The philosophy of causality, the philosophy of correlation is at the heart of science, at the heart of putting mathematical equations, which assumes there is before and after, which assume discreteness in something before and something after. What you're now saying is the way we define these before and after, or different mesh of events, we define them in geometric shapes rather than any other definition. Am I correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Can you help us? Can you take us through any particular phenomenon, and then give us some understanding of how geometrification could explain this better?
Yeah. So often we play this game, because what happens is, in the existing science, you start with a fact, you collect facts, and by designing experiments, and you try to link the events. So we played this game few days back when I was in Rajasthan, Jaipur, in a conference, and then I gave a piece of paper to my student and fellow professors to write it down. So normally when you try to build a science, Why it is very weak? It's weak because I do the measurement, I design the experiment, I take the data, and that data is truth for the kind of questions that I am asking to a system on all this kind of particular bias.
Correct.
That's how a scientific theory is built. And what is reproducibility of a scientific theory? You will perform the experiment in the way I suggested. You will ask the question which I asked, and you will get the same answer or not. So when lots of these events happen and many people reproduce, then a theory is accepted. Theory is accepted means what? The way I am asking question, the same way everybody would ask the questions to a particular phenomenon. If other way you ask question, then I would say then you build a new theory.
It's not my theory.
So what is the origin of survivability of my theory? Is my political popularity. How many scientists follow me? This is not observing nature in the way it is. Why? Because my basic ingredient to build up the scientific model is the way I ask questions. So for the way we suggest, we do not start with facts, we start with confusion. Enter inside a confusion and then build the geometric shapes, and inside the confusion and then build the geometric shapes, and we go on. For an example, I have no idea how aliens look like. It is a confusion because I have really no idea. Then what I know, I will always try to find confusion, not the fact. This is just a reverse way of doing science. So in science, you fix a question first, that how humans look like in other planet. This will change, and that will change. So nose will be 3 centimeters. So build a model, and then that model. So exactly fact. Link them and then fit with the observation. Here we do how the aliens would look like in a distant planet. Then I would say, okay, so I do not understand whether they would look like human or not, animals or not, or some complete unknown creature who cannot be seen or felt or measured, right? So human or not, that means the planet should be like a human. So we get a fact and I stop. So when I get a fact in this journey of confusions, I stop the journey going inside and inside and inside and inside. But if I don't find it, it will look like an animal or not. So if there is no human, only animals are over there, that means the evolution process perhaps did not choose cooking, perhaps did not choose quest for knowledge, perhaps did not choose. So I only select confusion where I am very, very confused, perhaps 3 or 4, and then go down until I reach a fact which I know I cannot go down. Then I take the whole architecture, put the whole architecture in the phase prime metric, and then try to see how the architecture changes. And then the beauty of phase prime metric is that it gives you new prime, new symmetries, new links, and new factors to put them together. And then it may suggest that, look, in a foreign planet where Earth-like environment is not there, if the environment is amine-based, amine or something like that, then you will get like this. And then the architecture would grow and grow and grow and grow. So the way you approach to the conventional solution, like your parents from your childhood say, do everything step by step.
Correct.
And it is Turing philosophy. It's the Abrahamic religion. That's why he says, do everything step by step. Be methodical. Method means you always decide beforehand, A to B, how do I go? Hey, this is step, this is step, this is step. We are suggesting that there is another way of doing things much more profoundly. Is that you never make a plan. You try to understand what things you don't know. If you want to go there, how you cannot reach. how you end up in something, and then build an structure, architecture, and the geometry would tell you everything that you need to know about your journey. So yeah, please.
Yeah. So sometime back when I was thinking about generally maths, I was just trying to think, how did maths even originate? How did humans even come to terms with things pertaining to maths? I arrived at this very simple understanding for myself, and I don't know whether it will scientifically hold, but I look at when I reflect on my senses, then I see certain properties of senses. In the sense, when I look at visual sense, then I have color as a property or a feature. So there is differentiation. So one of the properties is to differentiate. The senses help me differentiate, and the differentiation could be before, after, inside, outside, adjacent, one, many, and there are these different features that are attributed to the senses. Now I can see that the numbering system could build from there, because you could have these discrete things and you can point it out with symbols. I don't know whether I'm getting the question right here, but you can also help me. How is human sense friendly with this new form of geometrification? Or do you think it's going to become slightly challenging to have a geometric thinking or a geometrification approach?
I think that humans are very close to the geometrification. Human thoughts are very close to geometrification. For an example, you love to look at a plant, look at a tree which looks like a dancing lady. You love to look at a balloon that looks like ice cream. Look at the balloon; it looks like ice cream. So geometrification is fundamental to your brain, to your consciousness, to every single thing that you do. And I think that the origin of number system is not was not invented randomly. It came from very fundamental philosophies, and also the geometric similarities that we have in nature.
Interesting.
For an example, you look at the ratios 2:3. You always find a very particular ratios everywhere, wherever you go. Because 66% cases, if you divide yourself by 2, this part and this part are similar. And wherever you go in the universe, 16 billion years before or 16 billion years later, 50% of the structures will have C2 symmetry, mirror symmetry. Because 50% is 2, no? So 16% cases you will have 1:3 symmetry.
Yeah.
And then 8% cases you have C5 symmetry. So when we are talking about this prime contribution, we are taking into account their position, role, and occurrences in nature in the form of events, in the form of shapes, in the form of organization of different aspects and concepts also. So everything that comes in terms of this geometry. So I feel that people can relate to it much more profoundly.
More intuitively.
In a future, so in future, your kid goes to school and then he learns this geometric shapes would change into that. He doesn't learn anything. But when he goes for painting and then he draws a dynamics or creates something which is a completely new kind of thoughts which humans never had thought before, because he learns the geometric rules, which geometric shape changes to what is a preferential changing of this geometric shapes to that and that to that as per the mathematics. Then he would put the events into it, and then he would build a completely different kind of logic, different kind of argument, different kind of understanding. And the beauty of that is, in case of logic, you have a straightforward relationship. If then, one statement. But when your child or people would learn change of geometric shape, then you can create many pathways. For an example, if you have 8 corners of a cube and that changes into another shape, You have 8 to the power 8 possibilities of changing. And when you see those geometric shapes changing from this to that, and you can feel an event happening that way, that means no matter how many different ways a person asks the question, you will be able to answer. Unlike